Welcome to our 6th episode of We Are Milton, a podcast brought to you by the City of Milton. The goal for our podcast is to bring you information about all things related to Milton, Wisconsin. So that includes information from our public safety professionals and maybe a couple tips as well. So I'm Inga Cushman, Administrative Services Director for the City of Milton, and with me today is Police Chief Scott Marquardt.
Hello.
Scott has been the police chief since 2015?
Correct.
Right?
Summer of 2015.
And before that, you were with which department?
I was with UW-Platteville Police Department, and before that I was with the City of Platteville Police Department.
Okay. How long were you with the city?
I was with the city for 17 years, and then with UW for another 6.
Okay.
So-
Long law enforcement career.
Yeah. Well, and I went to college in Platteville, too. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was there from like 1989 to 2015, and then decided it was time to leave. So that's how I got here.
It's a great community, but I think Milton's a little bit better.
I think so.
I might be biased, though.
I'm good with it.
So today we're going to talk about some trick-or-treating tips. Milton always celebrates trick-or-treating on Halloween from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., and 2019 is no different. The tradition continues.
Yay.
Mayor Nisa Welch read the official proclamation at the council meeting on October 15th, 2019, and it was well received by the community members in the audience, and we'll play it for you right now.
Whereas the City of Milton wishes a safe and festive Halloween celebration for its citizens and encourages participation in the gaiety of this holiday by both young and old, and whereas miniature ghosts, goblins, witches, and other mysterious creatures emerge each year on October 31st, and whereas they ring doorbells of their neighborhood and friends to extort goodies, and whereas the safety of these small creatures is assured by an accompanying adult and is a source of amusement and good cheer for both the very young and the older people whom they visit and entertain. Whereas I, Anissa Welch, Mayor of the City of Milton, proclaim Thursday, October 31st, 2019, Halloween in the City of Milton. Therefore, let it be known that Thursday, October 31st, 2019 shall be known as Halloween Trick-or-Treat Day, and the celebration will be observed between the hours of 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And I will sign it the 15th day of October, 2019.
So just to note, another important thing that happened at that meeting was that we presented the draft 2020 budget. So if you're interested in watching that presentation, check out our YouTube channel and watch the entire meeting, or at least just that portion of the presentation.
Awesome.
From City Administrator Al Hulick. But now, on to
Halloween.
Trick-or-treat safety tips from our chief.
Yeah. So as I reflected on kind of what to share today, and you get this information from a lot of different sources, but obviously safety is kind of top of my mind. For me, there's a risk of putting small children on the streets in the dark when they're really excited and maybe they don't have a very bright color reflective costume. And what that all looks like. So a lot of the things that I will talk about today are just my experiences being a parent, living in Milton, and now this being our 4th trick-or-treat experience here in town. And I guess I'll get into the tips for the parents and the children here shortly, but I want to talk to everybody else for a second.
Yeah. That
between those hours of, say, about 5 o'clock and about 8 o'clock, just outside of our trick-or-treating hours, our streets obviously fill with little ones. And again, they're very excited. They're going door to door and they're doing all the things that they do. And I really implore, especially our drivers in our community, to consider that. Slow down and be watchful and pay attention to, these streets that maybe you never see a pedestrian on. They're going to have people walking on them on this particular night.
And way more than any other time,
correct.
Probably.
Absolutely. And so I want to remind them, yes, it's about the kids being safe and about parents being safe and parents making sure their kids are safe, but it's also all of our responsibilities to keep in mind what's happening that night. There's a couple of statistics floating out there. One is a graphic I think we're going to share at some point. And that graphic talks about that when it comes to pedestrian deaths, of course, a night like Halloween where we're throwing all these kids out on the street, nationwide, the statistics show us that is a pretty dangerous night for our pedestrians, and we can understand why.
Yeah.
So I would hate to have Milton show up in the news and for a tragedy like that.
Definitely.
So yeah, so I wanna make that point.
So the graphic you referenced, we will show it on the video version that's going to be posted on YouTube. But if you're not watching us, you're listening to us on one of our podcast outlets, just check out our Facebook page and Instagram and Twitter. We'll share it on there as well. It's a really great infographic. From which department put that together?
I originally got it from the City of Lancaster Police Department,
Okay.
right off their Facebook page, and they got it from a Safe Children kind
okay.
of organization that sends stuff out every year on this.
Great. So we'll be sharing that as well, and we'll show it on the video version of the podcast.
Perfect.
So we'll keep going.
Yeah, and so from a kid's perspective, I have little ones myself, and they're very excited about going out trick-or-treating this year. My son has a big, gigantic mask that he's going to wear on his head. And we did a little bit of a trial run with me putting it on my head and thinking, dude, you are never going to be able to see out of this when we're trick-or-treating. So take special note of that. Depending on what your child's costumes are, you may have to provide them more support than you originally intended to, simply because they might not be able to see that well.
Yeah. That was one rule my mom had. She would never let us wear masks because of it was a little bit more difficult for us to see and manage, and she had 3 girls she was trying to corral, so it was going to be a little too much. So we were very good with the face paint on Halloween.
we would do masks, but they were also the plastic masks that had the really tiny eyes and the 1/4-inch slit to breathe out of, so they pretty quickly came off, so we didn't suffocate.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just one of the challenges that I think everybody faces. Consider what your costume is, and then what are the logistics on how I'm going to go walk around a neighborhood in the dark with this costume on is something to think about. And one of the things that was on the infographic too that I think is really great, that it's a pretty cheap, easy solution that can add a lot of visibility, is just adding some reflective tape to the costume.
Oh yeah.
And you can make that part of the costume in some cases. It comes in all colors and all of that. But just that kind of tape is what we wear on our traffic vests when we're out working a crash scene in the middle of the night. And just that reflectivity can just show up for blocks away with a car that happens to shine its headlights on that. So that's just one of those things. Always have a lighting source is good. Flashlights are great.
And I'm sure you can get a really cool pumpkin flashlight or something at this point.
Yeah, glow sticks are awesome. All of that just to improve your visibility and to help you get around, because not all of our neighborhoods have sidewalks.
No.
And so walking through these areas in the dark, it always helps to have a flashlight to kind of know where you're stepping to.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that's helpful. The checking of the candy is always important. We've a lot of the candy tampering cases we've heard about through the years, most of those are hoaxes.
Yeah.
But it's always good to check through. Frankly, I typically check my kids' candy, and all of the peanut butter cups seem to be tampered with to me, so they don't get those.
They go in the adults only.
Yeah, I want to be safe.
Candy dish pile.
I want to be safe, so I do that.
Totally understandable.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. Make sure if you are going to be a house people are going to stop at, get that outside light turned on. Make sure that things are lit well in your yard for the people that are coming to visit. Keep us in mind for that night. If you see something, say something. I say that a lot in a variety of circumstances. It works on Halloween too. If something just doesn't seem right to you, don't be afraid to call us. We have people working that night, and we'll be happy to respond. We typically aren't too crazy on Halloween night, but it's a busy time in town.
Yeah.
And being out there and being visible is our goal, and would be happy to help however we can too.
Good. Did you have a favorite Halloween costume when you were growing up?
So I was asked that at a council meeting the other night. I don't know that I have a favorite. because I can't remember them all, but the one I was most memorable with and very proud of as a child of the 80s is my homemade cardboard box Rubik's Cube costume.
So how big was that? Was that like a full body Rubik's Cube?
Oh yeah,
then?
it was a big box with my head sticking out the top and very colorful paper, construction paper that I have glued to the box.
Was it a completed Rubik's Cube? That's
no.
No? Okay.
No, it was definitely scrambled because that makes a cooler costume, I guess.
It probably does.
I actually tried to do a Rubik's Cube solving contest once. It didn't work very well, but I got it done. I just wasn't fast at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my more memorable ones was my mom stayed up late and made me Maleficent horns.
Oh.
She sewed them for me. I still have them at home.
Nice.
Yeah. That was probably my favorite costume.
Yeah.
Then it was, of course, Christmas decorations were already out, so I was able to go and get a decorative ball to put on my staff, and
nice.
it was a pretty cool costume.
That does sound cool. This year I'm going with middle-aged police chief.
Okay.
Typically I get home about the time that trick-or-treating starts, so I just wear this and walk out in the neighborhood. And at this point, my kids still think I'm cool, so that's all right. They love it. And then we just go out, hit our neighborhood, and have a pretty good time. So.
Yeah. My daughter requested to be a police officer.
Excellent.
But then she wavered, and now I think she wants to be Wonder Woman. So I really don't know
Both
where
are
we're going to go
acceptable.
from there.
Yeah.
Another rule my mom, I think, had was that we needed to make sure that our costumes were warm or there were layers available because Wisconsin weather.
Exactly.
Right?
You never know. Yeah. And there's always rules at the school too, so make sure you pay attention to those. One of the things that I constantly have to remind my kids is, no, you can't take the sword that goes with your costume to school today. So that sort of no weapons thing, I think, is pretty helpful, and something to consider too.
Yeah. Well, anything else that we should be mindful of on Halloween?
I don't think so. I think enjoy yourself, but just be watchful.
Yeah.
Take a moment and think a little bit about your safety. Spend just a brief little time talking to your kids about it and reminding them that these are still streets and cars will still be on them as we're going out into our neighborhoods, just so we can plant that in their head a little bit.
Yeah.
Stay with the little ones. Make sure they're well monitored. Let the big ones know how to stay safe and keep their friends safe, and have fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun night in Milton, and I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely. And see something, say something. What's
Always.
the best number to call if you see something, to say something?
So in emergencies, it's always 911. Never hesitate to call 911, even if you think it might be an emergency, but you're not 100% sure. That is the quickest way to reach our Rock County 911 Communications Center. If it's not an emergency, that same center also handles all of our non-emergency calls.
Okay.
And the best way to get to them, and please put it in your phone, is 608-757-2244. That's the same workers at the 911 center pick that phone up too, and then they prepare all of our calls, dispatch us to them. They're really the best 24-hour number to get to us in non-emergencies. A lot of times people think they should just call our front desk. Well, our front desk is not staffed 24 hours.
And you don't, and the staff doesn't necessarily dispatch
They don't,
either.
yeah.
So the calls that come in don't get put into the systems
Correct.
as appropriately as when you just call the dispatch center.
And our people up front are awesome. Becky and Chris do such a good job. They are not dispatchers at the communication center, don't have the systems to punch these things into our computer-aided dispatch system is what it's called. So they just can't do that. And sometimes people will show up or people will call and say, hey, I got to report something, and the ladies up front are sitting there and they say, well, call the 2244 number because we got to get it entered.
Yeah.
So that's, the counter is great for all of our administrative paperwork, those kinds of things. But if you need a police officer and you need to report something, those are the best two ways to do it, is calling that comm center.
And if you need help remembering the non-emergency number, a few years ago, the Rock County Communications Center did put out a really catchy music video
They
to help
did.
you remember.
Yeah.
So I'll try and put a link to that in some of our postings as well.
Awesome. I have made an appearance in a couple of those videos.
You have.
I was, yeah. I was Ariana Grande's saxophone player in one. That was my probably most famous appearance.
Yes.
But a video that they shot before I got here has hit millions and millions of likes on YouTube. So if you haven't checked those out, look at them. They're a good time.
They're entertaining, but definitely the one that gives you the phone number for the non-emergency number. I think that's the best one, just because now I always remember it. And I sing the song to myself. It's perfect.
Yeah, some people call that an earworm.
Yeah.
It'll get stuck in your head, but you'll never forget it.
I won't.
Yeah.
Never going to.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that is about everything. If anyone has any questions on trick-or-treating or just general safety tips, I guess, feel free to contact Chief Marquart, and he can direct you to the right resources or answer those questions for you.
Absolutely. We are always big on what can we prevent so that we don't have to investigate later. So if we can prevent somebody from getting hurt, getting victimized, and get in front of something by providing some really good information how to be safe and how to keep their family and their property and their things safe, we're all about that. So call anytime. We're happy to talk through situations.
Definitely. Let's see. So thank you again.
Thank you
For coming and talking to us today.
Thanks for the invitation.
I really
loved
appreciate it. And if anyone listening has any topic suggestions, feel free to contact me at City Hall, and we can work on putting those programs together. Great. Do you have any topic suggestions offhand?
I got some ideas, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I'm excited. So, thank you again for coming. Thank you for listening. And until next time.
Great.
We're going to say together, we are Milton. That's how we end these all the time.
Excellent. I'm ready.
You ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
We are Milton.